HighTimeToAwake.com presents High Time to Awake. Bible Prophecy with Craig C. White. Today's study is titled Magog Made Easier, Part 2. Ezekiel 38 may be a preview to Ezekiel 39. In Magog Made Easier Part 1, we looked at Ezekiel chapter 38. We will now look at Ezekiel chapter 39. Ezekiel chapter 39 verse 1. Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Ezekiel 39 begins much the same as chapter 38. God proclaims for the second time that he is against the leader of Turkey. However, the other nations of Iran, Ethiopia, or Libya are not mentioned. In chapter 38, the nations observe God's hand in defending Israel. It is different in chapter 39. Israel finally trusts in their God. We will discover that the battle described in chapter 39 is conclusive. God will no longer allow the nations to invade Israel. So the events described in Ezekiel chapter 39 must take place at the end of the Great Tribulation, when Jesus Christ returns to defeat Israel's enemies and rule in Jerusalem. Only then is Israel forever at peace, and only then are all Jewish people faithful towards their God. Ezekiel chapter 39 verse 2. And I will turn thee back, and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. In verse 2, the phrase, leave but the sixth part of thee, is a mistranslation. The Hebrew word used here means to annihilate. In the battle of Gog and Magog, described in chapter 39, God will annihilate the armies. God will again turn the Turkish army to invade Israel from the north. At the end of the Great Tribulation, Israel is attacked from several fronts. For more on this, please read my commentary titled Revelation Wrath Path at HighTimeToAwake.com. We know that God gathers some of the armies of Israel's enemies at Megiddo in northern Israel. It seems that Ezekiel 39 is describing the Battle of Armageddon. Revelation 16 verse 16 says, And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, which today is called Megiddo in northern Israel. Ezekiel chapter 39 verse 3, And I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. In other words, God disarms the invading armies. Ezekiel chapter 39 verse 4, Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. Verse 4 describes the day of the Lord, which is the time of Jesus Christ's vengeance on all of Israel's enemies. The day of God's vengeance lasts through the 7-year Great Tribulation, culminating with Jesus' second coming at the end of the Great Tribulation. This same day is described in Revelation 19, verse 17. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. That verse was in Revelation 19. Now let's continue with Ezekiel chapter 39. Ezekiel chapter 39 verse 5. Thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord God. And I will send a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am the Lord. In verse 5, send a fire means that God will send an army to destroy the land of Israel's enemies. This same expression is used in Hosea 8 verse 14, Amos chapters 1 and 2, and also in Judges chapter 20, 2 Kings verse 8, Psalm 74, and Lamentations chapter 1. Ezekiel chapter 39 verse 7. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name any more. And the heathen shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. In verse 7, the heathen or nations will no longer profane the God of Israel. This war can only take place at the end of the Great Tribulation period. After Jesus judges Israel's enemies, he will set his throne in Israel to rule on earth forever. In verse 8, God tells us clearly that this is the day of the Lord's vengeance that the prophets have foretold. In the previous chapter of Ezekiel, God asks the question, is the Turkish leader, or Magog, the invader whom the prophets foretold? He is that person, but I think that the events described in Ezekiel chapter 38 may be a preview of the main battle of Gog and Magog. The events of Ezekiel chapter 39 fulfill the major prophecies about the day of the Lord. Again, Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 17 says, Thus saith the Lord God, Art thou he whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? In Ezekiel chapter 38, God raises the question, is this the battle of the end time? In Ezekiel chapter 39, God says that this is the battle of the end time. Now let's get back to Ezekiel chapter 39. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 8. Behold, it is come, and it is done, saith the Lord God. This is the day whereof I have spoken. The following verses describe the 7-month burial period of the armies of Gog. Hamon-Gog means the multitude of Gog. Hamana means simply multitude. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 9. And they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth, and shall set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows, and the handstaves and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any out of the forests. For they shall burn the weapons with fire, and they shall spoil those that spoiled them, and rob those that robbed them, saith the Lord God. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea. And it shall stop the noses of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon-Gog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them, that they may cleanse the land. Yea, all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be to them a renown the day that I shall be glorified, saith the Lord God. And they shall sever out men of continual employment passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search, and the passengers that pass through the land, when any see a man's bones, then shall he set up a sign by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamon-Gog. And also the name of the city shall be Hamanah. Thus shall they cleanse the land. The following verses describe the supper of the great God. Israel's enemies will die on the battleground and be eaten by birds and beasts. I personally will not attend this feast. I have reservations to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Revelation chapter 19, verse 17. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 17. And thou, son of man, thus saith the Lord God, Speak unto every feathered fowl, and to every beast of the field, Assemble yourselves, and come gather yourselves on every side to my sacrifice that I do sacrifice for you, even a great sacrifice upon the mountains of Israel, that ye may eat flesh and drink blood. Ye shall eat the flesh of the mighty, and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams, of lambs, and of goats, of bullocks, all of them fatlings of Bashan. And ye shall eat fat till ye be full, and drink blood till ye be drunken, of my sacrifice which I have sacrificed for you. Thus ye shall be filled at my table with horses and chariots, with mighty men, and with all men of war, saith the Lord God. The nations of Israel's enemies will see that God has judged against them. Jesus will set his throne in Jerusalem. The nations will see God's faithfulness towards Israel. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 21. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord their God from that day and forward. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them, and gave them into the hand of their enemies. So fell they all by the sword. According to their uncleanness, and according to their transgressions, have I done unto them, and hid my face from them. At last the people of Israel believe in their God. In verse 25 following, God will gather the Jewish people from every nation. God will raise every believing Jew from the dead and return them to the land of Israel, from the nations where they were held captive. Please read my commentary titled Aliyah Israel, Arise Return at hightimetoawake.com. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 25. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. After that they have borne their shame, and all their trespasses whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid, when I have brought them again from the people, and gathered them out of the enemy's lands, and am sanctified in them in the sight of many nations, then shall they know that I am the Lord their God, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered them unto their land, and have left none of them any more. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my Spirit upon the house of Israel, saith the Lord God. After Israel's great tribulation, the people of Israel will be brought back into their land, and will never be in unbelief toward their God again. Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 may be describing the same battle, or their events may have similarities but happen at slightly different times. It is for certain that both chapters describe events that happen near the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. We can easily watch for a Turkish-led invasion into Israel. We can easily identify the participating nations of Iran, Ethiopia and/or Sudan, and Libya. We can recognize that these nations today are likely to join forces against Israel. We can easily identify the Turkish leader that has the propensity to make war with Israel. We can recognize God's works in the last days before Christ's return. The world is poised for this conflict today, so we should all be aware of Ezekiel's prophecy and be watchful. High Time to Awake now has 3 new ebooks out. The first one is The Fall of Satan and the Rise of the Antichrist. It is packed with Bible prophecy that is essential for us to understand today, as well as explaining how the revealing of the Antichrist is a sign of the rapture. This book contains some of my most important commentary. God's Great Expectations is a book about God's desire to know us and about the ramifications of knowing Him or rejecting Him. It will challenge and inform every Christian. It contains an in-depth definition of hell in the Bible and a map of heaven. The Last Jews in Jerusalem chronicles the trial of the nation of Israel during the Great Tribulation period. Happily, it also explores the return of the Shekinah glory to Jerusalem and the return of all believing Jews to Israel and life after the tribulation. Hello, this is Craig C. White. Please check out my website at hightimetoawake.com. And while you're there, check out my new book, High Time to Awake, 7 Misinterpreted Bible Prophecies. It contains several commentaries about prophecies that are about to happen in the world today, including Magog Made Easy, which is about an invasion of Israel led by Turkey, and also in chapter 1, The Fall and Rise of the Antichrist, which tells us that the revelation of the Antichrist on earth is the sign of the rapture. These are important issues for Christians to understand today, so please check out the book at hightimetoawake.com, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.